So today, episode 69, we had Brittney Parker on the podcast, fitness trainer and mental health and health advocate. It was a great talk. She drove all the way down from Mission, BC. It was a pleasure having her on. Like, subscribe, comment, whatever you need to do. Enjoy 24, episode 69. Peace.
I typically do a microdose when I have like a big day. So like if I'm waking up and like I want a little bit more clarity, I need a little bit more energy, I know that I'm going to be having like a little bit more genuine conversation with, say, clients or friends, or I want to be a little bit more dialed in. Dialed in.
So it's just clarity, huh? Like your mind just feels clear, you're more present.
For me, I would say, because I've been doing it, I started when I was right after I turned 25, and I'm 27 now, so 2.5 years. So basically, I started doing it every Saturday. I would go out on an adventure with my parents, like we take the boat out, and I would just like bring my journals, bring my books, just kind of like sit on the back of the boat and just sit in the sun, and like it kind of allowed me to be a little bit more in my body. Mm-hmm. So then, I don't know, it helped a lot with like my self-development journey. So I was like really diving into trying to figure out like my past trauma and my past experiences and kind of just learn more about myself, I guess.
I have heard like a lot of people that do microdose or do shrooms or whatever, something like a psychedelic, they do actually like bring up all the traumas, and it can get overwhelming, but at times when the traumas do come up, they actually like figure it out. Yeah. Like there's like solutions in the high that they're in.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it's just because you're so in your body, right? Like there's not really an escape. You kind of just have to work through it. Yeah. So like I find that's why I've continued to do it. So I started off with doing it every weekend when I was just like with my mom and my stepdad. And then that allowed me to kind of like get comfortable with it because I wasn't doing a lot. I was just keeping it very like mild. And then it allowed me to get comfortable with the experience of it and experience just kind of like the highs and lows of being in your body and what it feels like to be anxious or what it feels like to be, to have like a higher frequency and just be happier.
Yeah.
Because it can have such a swing on it. So I don't know, like right now I would say I feel a little bit anxious, but because I'm in my body and I can kind of like work with it because I've been doing it for so long, it almost kind of challenges me a little bit.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you if you're anxious because I don't.
A little bit.
I am anxious, but I always get anxious before an episode because I have a lot, like I need to like be dialed in into like hosting and to know if you're comfortable, but it's just, it's cool because I've said this before, like being present in the moment, like me talking to you right now, it's kind of tough. Like it's not tough. It's just, there's moments when you're going to be talking and I'm just going to drift away. Not because I'm not listening to you and I don't want, or you're boring. It's just, I start thinking, oh, how much time have we got? How far is this going? What are people going to think about what Brittney's saying right now? Yeah. There's just a million different things going through my head and I just can't, it's difficult for me to sometimes just bring myself back into the present and say, okay, whatever's happening is happening. I'm just talking, just go for it. Like, you know, so.
You've got a package that you're trying to deliver, right? So it makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, it is my brand now. So I guess, like, even with your clients and your fitness page, do you feel really connected to the outcome? Like, if this post doesn't get this many likes, or if I don't get an extra client from this? Not
really. Like, I'm confident in myself. I'm confident in my abilities and what I bring forward. But for me, it's my fulfillment comes from impacting somebody positively. If I can inspire somebody, if I can motivate somebody, if I can have a genuine conversation with somebody and somebody leaves feeling more uplifted and like just in a better headspace, that for me means more than anything. Like Instagram is one thing, social media is one thing. Yeah.
Really is, but do you, at some point you got to think about it as a business though.
Yeah.
It is your business.
Yeah. And I do.
You know?
But for me, like, mental health is my niche. So for me, it's people come to me because they want to align their mental with their body. So that for me means the most, and that keeps me moving forward, and that also keeps my clientele full.
Right. It's just like bridging mental health and fitness together.
Yeah.
That's your thing.
That's my thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because like physical is one thing. Anybody can have a nice physique, right? But like to really be dialed internally in with that, a lot of people aren't. And a lot of people just run from it or try to escape from it or distract themselves from it or use substances or whatever that is. But to actually like sit in it and like allow yourself to be uncomfortable with whatever wants to surface internally, a lot of people don't do.
So your fitness journey is probably
from mental.
Yeah. It was more than just looking good and having a
100%. Yeah.
That's a part of it. I mean, looking good is.
That's where mine started for sure. And that's what also brought me back to it, because there was a chapter where I was in and out of relationships and I was constantly running from my issues, distracting myself, busying myself, as many plans as I can have all day long. And I never knew myself, but I also grew up with a lot of trauma. Like I had a dad who was in and out. He traveled a lot for work, and my parents didn't have the most positive connection. So it impacted me pretty roughly. And so there was a lot that I just hadn't quite come to terms with. And then that started to impact relationships. And then that started to impact like more substance abuse, just with like drinking and like smoking weed and using those as outlets and like busying myself all the time. And then when I finally slowed down and actually just started to pay attention to like my mind and my body and actually invest into something that makes me feel good and that just fuels me positively, then and especially becoming a coach. Like I feel like that was my biggest turn, but that was all when I was 25.
Right.
So there's like 10 years where I didn't know how to be present. I didn't know how to be connected to people. I ran from connection. I ran from commitment.
Were you just
isolated.
Were you just afraid of commitment because of what you saw with your parents?
Yeah. But also like even with like girl friendships, like I didn't know how to be present when I was sitting with them engaging. Like I don't know. It was almost like I was just constantly shut off. And my mom even said this to me all growing up. She's like, you have commitment issues. I see it with your friends. I see it in your relationships. You don't know how to be present when you are sitting with somebody and they're trying to be present with you. Like you're not there. She's like, I would talk to you and you weren't there.
You weren't there. How would they know? Like, would you make it really obvious that you weren't?
Probably.
Right, because I'm really trying to like understand. Like, I get what you mean.
Yeah, like you could be having a conversation with me, and I'd probably be like, yeah, like
kind of
standoffish.
Kind of standoffish.
Probably.
You come off
Social
rude.
anxiety,
Like,
maybe.
what's up with Brittney? Like, why is she like?
Yeah, or I'd be on my phone. Like, I don't really care to like really connect. Like, I'm listening, but I'm really not listening, and I'm like, I'm there, but this is like I was just so detached from the world. And like
it wasn't like an ego thing, huh?
No,
it wasn't like
no. Like I was like bullied all through high school.
Really, you were bullied?
Yeah.
You were bullied.
Yeah.
Jesus. Okay.
Yeah, like high school was hell. I hated high school.
I was bullied in elementary. I actually brought it up. I want to talk to you about that, but go on. Sorry.
I don't know. I isolated a lot. I never really fit in, and I know that also kept me from being attached to people because I felt like if I let them in, I would get hurt because I had abandonment issues from my dad.
With bullying, I don't know if you want to get into this, and I literally had this talk with my last guest, Aaron.
Yeah.
Because I have a therapist, and it took me about 2 years for me to tell him that I was bullied at some point in elementary because I was the new kid, and it was a really rough like year or 2 years in elementary. And even now, it's just one of those things, like, you say it so confidently, that which I respect a lot and I envy, because
I've been in therapy.
yeah, I mean, but that's just because the thing with bullying, I feel like there's like this like gray cloud around it where no matter how cool, quote unquote, you get as you get older and how many things you accomplish, like Drake could come out and say, oh, when I was in high school, I got bullied. Someone out there is going to be like, oh, Drake's a loser. You know what I mean? Oh, he's a loser for getting bullied. Because I think with bullying, it's just when the person getting bullied, it kind of makes that person inferior and just not capable of anything. I don't know what it is with bullying. It's like a very like embarrassing and shameful thing. Even for me to say, like, I'm a 28-year-old guy now, and I'm not that 11-year-old kid anymore. But it's just like this little part of me that's ashamed to say that 11-year-old boy went through that kind of shit. Yeah. I don't know. It's just like it's just very you know, I get sheepish when I talk about bullying.
Yeah, for me, I feel like it still makes me quite emotional, but I mean, like from January to June, I was in counseling every single week.
Nice.
For 6 months. And so I learned a lot about some of the things I had kind of repressed. And so, like, even growing up, like I lived in a neighborhood where in each house throughout my neighborhood, there was kids. And I never fit in with them. Like, I had like maybe one girlfriend and she had a brother, and her brother would pick on me. Or she had friends that lived in the cul-de-sac, and then I never fit in with them, so they'd always like run away or whatever. Like, I never fit in, and I was always kind of like the last resort. And so it kind of carried on through my life. Like, even in grade 8, grade 9, I had a best friend, and I was always kind of like last resort. Like, I feel like I don't know, even the people that I did really care about kind of in a way ended up hurting me. So I just always withdrawed from the connection because it was easier than getting hurt. And I know that also correlated with my dad being in and out of the picture and his connection with my mom. And then when I was in grade 10, I was in one of those like stupid little relationships because you're so young, you don't know. But he had a friend group. And yeah, once again, I never really fit in. And in the end, I ended up leaving the one high school I was at because somebody had told me, like, nobody cares about you.
Jesus.
You have no friends. Like, nobody would notice if you left. It hit me pretty hard, obviously, like it would for anybody, especially as a girl who's in grade 11, coming from, like, a boy who at that time you thought was your best friend.
Oh, wow. This was from someone like you.
Yeah, this is somebody that I grew up with. So
Jesus.
He had probably been in my life since I was 4 or 5. So, like, you, like, grow up with, like, I don't know. For me, I grew up with all boys. So to hear it coming from somebody that had been in my life for so long hit me pretty hard. So I ended up leaving that high school, going to another high school. And then I got bullied there by a couple girls. So then I ended up leaving there and going back to the other high school. So I did one semester at at Heritage, and then I did one semester at MSS, and then went back to Heritage for grade 12.
Heritage Woods?
No, Heritage and Mission, so Heritage Secondary.
Yeah, okay,
yeah. But yeah, so then grade 12, I kind of feel like I started to find myself a little bit more. I finally felt like I had like more footing. I made a couple like deeper connections.
Did you ever, like, when you were going through that whole bullying thing, were there days where you would go home and say, why was I left out today? Like, I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't say anything outlandish. I was just being myself, and I'm just not being accepted. Like, the part where it would really confuse me and it would make me really, like, overthink everything is the days when I would just be there, but my peers would just kind of leave me out of whatever they were doing. It wasn't necessarily like, oh, fuck you, Mo, you're a bitch, or like, like, they wouldn't, like, I wouldn't get beat up. I wouldn't, it wasn't like directly at me. It was just excluding me from things. And I would just leave and go home thinking, what did I do wrong today? I would just like basically dissect my whole day from morning, recess, lunch. Did I say something to someone? Did I act in a weird way? Did I walk a certain way that someone didn't like? What? Yeah. Like, what is wrong with me? Was that kind of your experience?
I would say yes, because there's yes and no. Because there was like grade 10, grade 11, I would text. I had a couple people that I was like close with in classes. And so I would text them leading up to lunch and be like, what are you doing at lunch? Like, to try and like secure somebody to hang out with.
Yeah.
Or I would spend lunch in the library, or I would spend lunch like going to classes and just doing homework. Or I would like text, I had like 2 other guy friends and I would text them and be like, can we go out for lunch? Like whatever. And so every day I was like trying to secure someone to spend it with.
Something to do.
So I didn't look like
just not doing,
Yeah. Like I was left out.
Fuck, I did go through that whole shit.
If I'm being honest, I don't know that I was present enough or aware enough as a kid to actually be like, to actually think to that extent of, did I do anything wrong? Like, what did I say? Whatever. I feel like I just was so used to it that it was just like my everyday. Like I would literally go home and just like watch TV, lock myself in my room. But I'm also an only child.
Same.
So I didn't know how to communicate. I didn't know how to voice anything that was on my mind. I don't know. I spent all my time alone. Like my parents were also never home. So it's like I'd wake up, I'd go to school, I'd come home, I'd be alone for like another 4 or 5 hours. I'd eat dinner alone. I'd like whatever. And then they'd come home for like an hour and then I'd go back to bed. And it was like, I was just so used to just being alone and self-isolating that I don't know that I ever actually took the time to like think about like why this is happening to me, or like why I feel like this, or
sort of just like
why I don't fit in.
Yeah, you accepted.
Yeah, I just accepted it. And I was just so used to just being alone that it was just.
Right.
Yeah.
You're 27 now. Do you still feel those things come up at times? Not like full blown like, but do you...
Like the insecurity in it?
The insecurities, the triggers, because a lot of the times like with my therapist, I tell him about things that happen and the triggers, and he tells me that's that 11-year-old boy screaming out to you. Like it's not you, it's not 28-year-old Mo.
Well, and then you need to nourish that child.
Yeah.
And kind of like rework yourself back.
Exactly.
So you reset it.
Like does that come out for you at any time?
It used to. I used to have really bad FOMO. I feel like when I actually started to like look more inward and like when I started my self-development journey, I kind of started to just find peace in being alone. And so like now for me, I don't know, if I don't get invited to something, I'm not upset by it. Like if I don't feel like I'm not fitting in, like it doesn't really affect me anymore. Like I'm there and I'm there for the experience of being there. If I'm not involved in the conversation or somebody's not talking to me or somebody's not looking at me, or I don't really feel fazed by it anymore. I feel like I've kind of just come to terms with it is what it is and like accepting it. And like some people are going through a hard time internally and maybe you triggered them and that's their own thing to worry about. If somebody wants to engage with you, if somebody wants to have you in their life, if somebody wants to make plans with you, they will. And if they don't, then they don't.
And it's just what it is.
And it is what it is.
Yeah.
Like, and that's kind of been my mentality for like the last 2.5 years is people are going to do what they want to do. If they include you, then they include you. And if they don't, then it's kind of their loss.
Cool, because you flipped like what you've been through, like through your high school, and now it's almost like a superpower. You know what I mean? Like you enjoy being on your own. And
I love it. Like, and I have the opportunity to live a very social life, and I do through work. But I also found as a kid, I feel like I was craving that extroverted life because I lived my childhood in being isolated. And then once I found a career that was so extroverted, then it almost made me want to be alone so much more. So it kind of like in a way, kept switching.
Do you think that's like part of the reason why you do post a lot on social media? Like you put yourself out there because that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But do you feel like that's a part of?
I put it out there because I've been through so many lows that I want to be transparent about it because so many people are going through so many lows and people don't talk about it. They only post the positive. So like if I'm sitting there and I'm journaling and by chance I'm recording it and I start crying, I'm going to fucking post it.
Because, do you really? No, you don't. Do you?
I do. Yeah.
Really?
I do. Yes. Like especially in the last 3 or 4 months, I've tried to be very transparent about that because the last 4 months for me have been very transformative. Like I just came out of a year and a bit relationship. And honestly, it was the hardest year of my life. Other than like everything else that I've been through. But like just kind of starting 2023 with like 6 months of counseling, diving deep into all of that, and then going through like ending my karmatic cycle of not feeling worthy in life or worthy of love or deserving of my career, the opportunities or whatever life offers. I went through a massive stage of just never feeling enough, never feeling worthy. And I feel like I've only in the last week kind of flipped that and realized that I am. And like, yeah, so it's kind of cool that we're here now because I feel like last week I had like a massive shift. So
what was the shift like? Because I'm kind of...
if I'm being honest, I did an edible. It took me to Mars. But I was dancing around my kitchen and I was cooking dinner. And then I had a moment where I was talking to an old friend and I was like, whoa, like I need to go journal right now because I'm having a moment where I'm realizing some things. And I kind of realized that with everything that I experienced through elementary school and high school and with my dad and my mom and my dad and bullying and never fitting in and always having like girlfriends and them leaving and toxic relationships because I never knew my worth. I never chose myself. I realized in the last month that with this last chapter ending in my last relationship, I did choose myself. And in doing that, so many opportunities have come up and I've learned so much more about myself. And like, I feel like I've finally released all the toxic and like all the things that have dragged me down or like stopped me from seeing my worth or stopped me from evolving or like, I don't know. I finally created that stability and security for myself, by myself and within myself. And that for me has been just like so rewarding. And that was kind of my shift this last week, like last Monday, was sitting down and kind of like taking a look at my last year and being like, you came out of that and that was the hardest year that you've had. And like now we're heading into a new year, but you were in such a different mindset and like you were such a different person than you were.
Did you ever undermine, like it kind of segues, like what you just said kind of segues into, did you ever undermine the things you went through? Like kind of like downplayed it? Like, oh, like it's not as bad as
I had massive imposter syndrome. Like big time. I don't know. And like I've also gone through like physical, not like injuries, but I've had to like rehab my body a lot and whatever. And especially being like a personal trainer, sometimes that just like knocks you down. And like also like my mental health not being good, there was a lot of times where I had like physical goals and I couldn't reach them because my mental health wasn't good. But you spend so much time like picking yourself apart and you're like, why isn't this working? What am I doing wrong? Like this is my job and I am moving backwards. And why am I moving backwards? And then so there was so many times where I was just like, I felt so much like shame and like guilt.
Like, why am I not where I'm supposed to be?
Yeah. And like there had been times like when I first became a personal trainer, I really lacked confidence. Like I would walk into a gym in like sweatpants and a baggy shirt and like I'd look around at all the girls wearing like sports bras and like cute little sets and whatever. And I was just like not there. And I was so uncomfortable with the thought of being there. And then I was actually training out in Port Moody at Fitness World. And one of my colleagues from high school was the manager. And he's like, yo, come work for me. Like, you're a new trainer. I'll set you up. Went out there and I was just started like walking around and asking all the personal trainers that work there, like, train me, teach me, like help me, guide me, mentor me, whatever. And I've kind of started to find myself there. But then at that time, hitting my goals just kind of started to like fall into place and were kind of effortless. And then I noticed that when I started diving really deep into my mental health and my trauma and the things that I actually needed to work past, especially in counseling, that's when I started to take steps backwards, which then made me feel like an imposter with my career and whatever.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean.
Yeah. Because then I'm like, I just spent a year and a half doing so well and progressing all the time. And now I'm just at a standstill and I'm moving backwards and I'm gaining weight and I'm losing muscle and my mental health is shit and I have no energy, but I'm drinking my electrolytes and I'm doing all the things that everyone is supposed to do. Like, I'm eating clean. I'm drinking my electrolytes with my salt and my lemon. I'm taking all the vitamins that I should be. I'm going to bed at a good time. I'm sleeping well. I'm going to the gym every day and I'm trying to lift as heavy as I can and work as hard as I can. But I'm gaining fat and I'm losing muscle. So what is going on? But that was just my mental. And I hadn't quite put the pieces together until I started to dial that in.
Did you ever, like, when those things were happening, did you ever like sit back and say, well, I'm just too attached to the expectations of what I should be or doing, right? Like,
always.
You know, like, was there ever a point where it's like, okay, well, yeah, I am doing all the things. I'm eating well, I'm drinking my electrolytes, working out, but I'm gaining weight. Okay, so what? Like,
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's just, I think in our society, and I don't know if you can like talk about this, but I think there's like this expectation, especially for men, where we have to like uphold a standard.
Always be better.
1%
better every day.
It's cool. I get it, but at some point it's like, okay, dude, it's okay to just be fine. It's okay to just like not wake up at 5 a.m. and do a fucking cold plunge. Like, it's okay. You know what I'm saying? It's okay to not do 10 different things before 8 a.m. And
I can, completely, because it's like I was just in a relationship where I lived with my partner and he's very much that mentality. So it was like, even for him as a man, just being so hard on himself for the times that he was just existing and he wasn't trying to be better. Then there's so much guilt and shame and you don't feel like you're moving in the direction or the man that you're supposed to be,
you're not
because
worthy
you slacked one day and maybe you had a nap or you didn't eat properly that day or you didn't go to the gym. Like, and I feel like men, because it's also their like primal instinct to provide and be better and take care of and be alpha.
Yeah. I fucking hate that word now.
I know, but it is what it is.
It is, and it's one of those things where it's just such a mainstream term being thrown around. Alpha, beta. It's just so much. It causes so much anxiety and depression within men. Like,
yes,
I was like, I can speak for most men that like this whole alpha male, beta male bullshit is really fucking with guys, and it's really and. I
think it's fucking with everybody.
Even women, though?
Well, yeah, because you look at social media, right? And there's such like a standard, especially with like editing and like all these like motivational quotes and whatever that are designed to just catch your eye and look cool. But then, I don't know, if you're not doing those things, then it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But And I feel like everyone's just so hard on themselves. Like even me, like I'll open my phone, I'll see something and I'm like, well, fuck, I should probably go to the gym then, or I should probably like edit more or like do more or be more instead of just kind of like being okay with also just existing some days. Right?
Right. And have you fallen into the trap, or have you gone that way with like this whole like, you know, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing to be, but like this whole women empowerment, like it's good that, you know, a woman should be independent and empowering, but like there's like some pretty radical women that are like, you know, saying some outlandish shit about it, and they're really on the side of like, no man can ever do anything for me. I'm not
there.
You're not there.
No.
Like you want the guy
I love
to
be taken care of.
Okay, so
I love to be taken care of, but I'm also entering that chapter where I'm like, I do want a family. I do want kids. Like I want to have a home, whatever. And I can't do that alone. Like I need somebody to run with me, you know? And like,
but are you willing to compromise for that?
Yeah.
Right? Because a lot of women, I think I mean, you're 27, so like you're a bit, like you're not 22 anymore,
yeah.
right? And I'm not saying you're old, but
yeah.
you know.
But I also know I can't get there alone.
Yeah.
And like,
what does that mean though? Because I feel like you're saying that I can't do this alone. Cool.
Yeah.
You know that. You're aware that you can't do it alone.
Yeah.
But when it comes to it and a guy does want to put in the effort to be with you or take you out and be intimate, will you find things that will turn you away from him, that are things that maybe you've been conditioned to say to yourself, oh, this isn't what a man should be doing? Like, well, all I'm saying is, like, is there like a laundry list of things that a guy should be doing for you to say, okay, you can run alongside me, right?
Yeah.
Or are you going to be able to like compromise a few things? Like, okay, he doesn't make that much money yet.
Yeah.
But I'm still willing to.
That's funny you say that, because I've been thinking about that a lot, especially like in the last couple months of just being alone. In a way, maybe. I look at what I'm doing and I'm like, I need somebody to do the same thing. Like, I need somebody to work on their mental health, and I need somebody who eats healthy and like has the value to eat healthy, or has an active lifestyle where they're not just sitting around all day or whatever. I feel like it's so much more encouraging to have somebody grind with you or like push you when you don't want to grind than it is to like constantly look over and see somebody sitting on the couch
being
playing
lazy.
video games or whatever. And like, that's fine. Do that the odd time, but like if it consumes you, I'm not really
so
into it.
That's not even like that 100%. I wouldn't, that's not cool. Like a guy that's doing that and just lazy, not working on themselves. No, like that guy needs to figure it out.
Like my main thing is like somebody that has the ambition to pick themselves up when they don't want to. If you're in a low mental place and you're not taking care of yourself, I will help you, because I'm a giver, and I will give to a fault where I will empty my own cup. But there needs to be a balance. There needs to be a balance on both sides, for you to help me to help you, us to progress together, us to move forward together. There's going to be highs and lows, and I went through this a lot in my last relationship, where it's like he would be at a low, I would be at a high, and then we would switch because we just fill each other's cup, but there was never a balance. So it's just like, to me now, that is so important. And like, I don't know, my values now, I feel like, are an active lifestyle, eating for the most part, like in eating things that are actually going to fuel you and like make you feel good and like give you energy, but also like keep you elevated to a point where you're not going to like crash after every meal or so essentially a guy that takes care of themselves, doesn't go out drinking every weekend and isn't a freaking goofball. Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
So so that takes priority over how much money he makes or what kind of car he drives or if he has his own place. Right? Like that's what I'm trying to like, you know what I'm saying?
A man who takes care of himself and is trying to build himself, for sure, over the assets that he already has. If I see that you have the potential and the drive to work towards that, cool. I'm still working on that too. Like, we can build together. And if you've got like a car and a house and you've got all your assets in check and like you are grinding, even better. But at the same time, like, I'm not up here, so I don't expect you to be like up here and all dialed in and figured out, because everyone is still learning and we're still in our 20s.
Why do you think some women have such a problem and such an issue with such a hard time to understand that? Why can't they get to that point where they're just humbly able to accept a man that's working on themselves and they don't have
everything figured out?
6 figures or everything figured out, doesn't provide doesn't have a penthouse or a fucking Ferrari. Like, why do some... That's a stupid example.
Social media.
Yeah. And that's the part where I'm saying, have you fallen into that? Like,
no.
Girl, don't take no shit. Yes, fuck.
I don't give a shit. Like, I
feel like you need to talk about that on your social media.
Yeah?
Post more about that. Because a lot of guys...
You post more about it for me, and then I'll you know.
Yeah, well, because the thing... I'm telling you, as a guy, and guys that I know in my circle, and guys that I know in their circle, we have this like worry and this anxiety, like, damn, man, like, I'm not where I need to be.
And this is, I just went through this with my past person, is the same thing, as you've created this standard for yourself and social media, and I don't know, just as a man, you feel like you need to provide, you need to take care of, it's that primal instinct of, this is how men are supposed to be. And if you aren't there, then you're like, what am I? I'm nothing. I have nothing to give. Whatever. And so I know from what I just went through and what I've experienced, it's really hard on men. And they're really hard on their mental health. And I mean, I feel like girls have this expectation through social media that if they haven't, or if they don't have these things all dialed in yet, then they're kind of going like nowhere. But I wouldn't say that's every girl. Like, there's a lot of people.
My buddies tell me that.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, dude, that's not every girl, man. Because I always send them.
But that's the thing. That's how you find your person, though.
I know, but it's just like,
because it's like you gotta weed through the weeds in order to, like, you know.
But like, you know, I'm Persian.
Yeah.
Oh fuck! I don't want to shit on Persian girls, but I kind of have to. Like, there are Persian girls, like, they're designed to like become lawyers or doctors and engineers or dentists, and when they do become one of those things, they only date doctors, lawyers, engineers, or dentists. So it's just like this societal cultural thing in the Iranian community, and it's like, you need to, I feel like if you were to like, one woman needs to come out and say, hey,
it's okay,
contrary to what you think on these like bullshit fucking street interviews and these podcasts, these girls go on and say, oh, my man has to make 6 figures.
Yeah.
It's not actually like that. Yeah. There are normal girls out there that don't need that. Yeah. Like, there's none, I don't think there's a woman that does that. And it's just, it would just be so refreshing to just hear that. And I know it's weird, because I know that's what's real. The women that, like you, like, they don't want.
Well, my biggest thing is peace. Like, if you can give me that, it's fucking all I need. If you can take me outside, you can take me to the gym, and you can give me peace, that's it. I don't give a fuck about money. Like, it is what it is. I will live in the bush. But, like, that's me. And, like, I don't know. I feel.
But you also don't want. Yeah, like, there's a balance. Like, you also don't want a bum that just sits around and eats chips and plays video games all day. And
I wouldn't
want. I wouldn't.
No, that's
you shouldn't.
So far from what I want.
Yeah.
But, like, if they have the drive to, like, if I look at somebody and I'm like, you can take care of a kid, that means more to me than whatever. Whether that is, like, you can feed a kid, you can have, like, a conversation with them to help them evolve, your morals are good, your values are healthy. Those things mean so much more to me than the kind of car you drive or the house that you live in or whatever.
At this point in your life?
At this point in my life.
Was there a time before where you were into the... Oh, really? Okay.
No, not really.
Really?
Because I was always, no.
It's okay if you were. I'm not judging. I'm just.
No. I also wasn't aware enough to really give a shit. Yeah, no. I've never cared. But I feel like that also came from my first relationship, where it almost kind of moved me in the other direction. My first relationship was a man who came from a wealthy family, and it was one of the most toxic relationships that I had been in. And it started off as my mom being like, this person takes care of you. They always have your best interests at heart. You should give them a chance. You have commitment issues and you haven't really dated.
Wow. Jesus, Mom.
Well, she was my best friend.
Yeah,
and
okay,
she was my only person, and I was an isolated child. So she was my go-to for everything. Like, first time I smoked weed. Within, like, she literally picked me up from my friend's house, and I was like, guess what I did today? Yeah. Well, I'm in grade 10, and she's like, oh, great, you're already dumber. Like, and then, like, when I was in grade 12, she's like, it was probably after I graduated, but she's like, you would probably really like mushrooms because it was my favorite, and I learned a lot from it. Oh, but, like, we're, like, really close. Okay, and cool, she was my best friend. She's, like, my sister. Yeah. More of a sister. Yeah. And she was also the only person that I had. So... yeah, she's like,
same with my mom, by the way. I tell her everything.
Yeah.
Told her first time I drank, smoked weed, lost my virginity.
Yeah. If I ever wanted to do something, I'd go to her because she'd always say yes. But she had like things like and I've also gone through a lot of losses. So like, and this I think in many ways also shaped me. Like when I was summer of grade 12, my best friend passed away. He got in a car accident. But he was my outlet to a social life. And so without him, I didn't have a social life. But if I was going to go drinking or I wanted to go to a party, she's like, you can go with him. So like, because she knew I'd be in good hands.
Yeah, and
there was trust established. Yeah. But yes, I totally lost.
No, I don't.
Now. First relationship. Right. So he was well off, but it was one of the most unhealthy relationships I had been in, and I know I carried a lot of trauma through that, like through the end of my teens into my early 20s that I just kind of repressed. Right. But I think that also steered me off of it. He had expensive cars and he lived in a really big house and whatever, but it moved me in the complete opposite direction where I was like, I don't want that.
Right. Are you in the point in your life where you're kind of like if some guy was to ask you out, you would say, oh, I'm not into it, I'm just working on myself?
I've already been doing that.
But is that the phase you're in?
Yeah. Like big time. Like I
don't really understand that statement because a lot of, girls that I've talked to, and they're like, oh, I'm not looking for a relationship. I'm working on myself. I don't have time. Yeah. It's like, well, you don't look for, it's not like you go to a store and you're like, oh, I'm looking for a relationship. Oh yeah, that's on aisle 3. Oh, cool. It's like, it just happens naturally, So I never understood that when girls used to say, oh, like I'm not really looking for one. I'm not into it. It's like, okay, well, it's not like something you look for. It just kind of.
For me, it's the values. I think right now where I'm at is I do have a lot of healing from my last relationship to move forward from. And so that in itself is kind of why I'm choosing to work on myself more, because I know I've got a lot to work on. And until I do that, I don't know that I can be right for somebody. So I think it's more coming from that aspect, but also like if you're, for the most part, values and morals that you're displaying on Instagram, or that if I hang out with you and you're doing these things that kind of like contradict where I'm trying to go, or like what I'm trying to build, then there's not a point.
Of course, yeah.
And so like those are the two things that I'm kind of like working at. Like if I can be around you and you put a smile on my face and you leave me feeling more energized after we hang out, then yes, I'll continue to hang out with you and I'll continue to go on dates with you or whatever. Right. But if I leave and I feel more overwhelmed with like things that I need to do still, or I feel behind now, or I don't feel energized.
You just don't click. I mean.
Yeah, but like you can click with somebody and still feel behind, or like you're not moving in the right direction. And like I think that was like my biggest thing in my last relationship was like the love can be there, the lust can be there, the unconditional love, whatever. The grind can be there, the morals, the values can all be there. But if you are feeling heavy to a point where you stop progressing or feel like you're behind or you're overwhelmed by the things that you need to do that you haven't been doing, then I feel like that's not going to work, you know?
I'm wondering why you felt like you weren't progressing. Like I'm not gonna try to dissect.
For me, energy is the biggest thing. I don't know.
But everything else was fine. Like you said, like the love, the lust, the grind, like. But the energy still just wasn't there, you know? Because I'm not. And
I feel
this
like
guy's probably gonna like message me like, dude, like.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't care. But because it's just I'm not like trying to like put you on the spot or like call you out. It's just. Sometimes
it's something that needs to be talked about.
Yeah, I think like do you ever like not second guess, but do you ever think like damn, I could have maybe like not cared so much about
all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. I don't know. I feel like and this is why I say that I'm working on myself and I'm declining dates and whatever. Because when two people aren't healed and you're trying to move forward, but there's so much turbulence because say you have these expectations and now you're disappointed, or you expect somebody to be a certain way because that's how you interpret them instead of just accepting them for who they are, then it starts to work in the opposite direction that you want to go, right?
Okay.
Like you can't be with somebody and not be heard or not be like understood, or like if you're trying to speak and explain your triggers and your needs and it's not being received and there's a wall, then it makes it really hard to continue moving forward.
Right.
Because like if that person needs to heal and work on themselves and rebuild whatever is wounded inside them and you're trying to do the same, and neither of you can meet eye to eye in the middle, and there's just always a misunderstanding or always an expectation, or it's not two people just existing and running parallel, then you can't move forward.
Right.
Right.
But would you still accept dates, or is it just like, no, I'm not going? Right. Like would that stop you from just even like if a guy came up to you and said, hey, I want to like take you out, I want to get to know you better, you would just say no right off the bat, or would you give him the initial chance and then
I'd probably give him a chance.
Okay. So you're not like no,
I'm not like shut off.
Okay.
I'm not shut off.
Yeah,
I am very open to it.
Yeah.
But I do feel like there needs.
But you're walking
with caution.
with caution. Like
I'm walking with caution.
Are you a little bit too hyper cautious maybe? And that's why you might not want to accept a date, because you don't want to let this guy down for a reason that in the long run you're going to look back and say, oh, that wasn't such a big deal, but I was not in a good place myself, so that's why I had to cut him off. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, in the moment, like if you do that, that's just where you are, and that's totally like rightfully so.
Yeah.
Like if you're not clicking for whatever reason, but that's just where you are, and like you said, you're healing right now.
Yeah.
But let's say a year or two down the line, when you look back on that date and you're like, oh, well, I may have jumped the gun a little too soon, but during that time, I was still healing. So it's okay. And it is okay.
My thing for me is it's like every chapter you're in is a lesson.
Yeah.
So there's going to be things that you experience. There's going to be people that come and go. There's going to be new opportunities that come your way. And I'm also like, I say I'm in a healing stage, but I'm also, or a healing chapter, but I'm also at a stage of life where I'm making a point to try and say yes to any opportunity that comes my way. So like, I will humor you, I will say yes, and I will be present and I will give it my all. But I also know the things that align. Mm-hmm. And I also know where I'm at as a human and internally, and the things that I'm striving towards. And for me, it just comes down to energy and alignment and like,
and you're
like,
okay.
what is this going to teach me?
Yeah. But you're
so
also,
like, if you have something to offer me, then I'm for sure going to like take it up because I'm like, I'm going to learn something from this regardless.
Yeah.
But if I'm not going to learn from it, then I'm like, there's not really a chance, like, whatever.
And you know for a fact that you're not going to learn from it. Like, is there ever a point where
that's
you're
the only time I would say no. Is like if it's not going to be something that's going to teach me, whether that is like a new connection or a new friendship or a job offer or a podcast interview or some sort of photo shoot or going on an adventure somewhere that I've never been and like pushing those comfort zones. Like, I will say yes if I feel like I'm going to learn something from it. If there's value, if there's, I don't know, like if I have an insightful conversation with somebody, I'm not going to tell them that I'm not going to go on a date with you because the chances are they're probably going to teach me something in whatever aspect. And
you're willing to live with the consequences, like the consequences of like.
I don't really look at it as consequences. I just look at it as something to learn.
Well, the reason why I say that is because I remember I was in a relationship a few years ago and I was not in the right place mentally and I knew it was going to end. I knew it. I knew that I couldn't go on another 2 months. Yeah. So I just started getting distant and then we just mutually like broke up. But like while they was happening, I told myself in 3 years, I'm going to regret this. I knew it.
So you self-sabotaged?
I self-sabotaged because in that state in time and that my mind, there was just a lot of moving parts in my life, right? And I wasn't happy with where I was at. I had a lot of things.
Coming back to that as a man.
Yeah, and exactly. Like that was a big part of it. Like, what am I doing? Where am I going? How much? What does she even like value me as like whatever? Yeah. And I knew, and she did. She never like it wasn't. I was just overthinking. I was just making assumptions in my mind. And I knew during that time. I knew it. I said, when we break up, I'm gonna regret this in about 2-3 years. I feel
like a lot of people have that though. Yeah. But and something that I've learned in the last specifically last month, but realistically probably like last 4 months is people are gonna come and go, and the ones that are meant for you will always come back. Yeah. Right? And like whether that is the lesson or whatever, like I've got so many people in my life that left such massive impacts and were such just easy connections and just like genuinely taught me so much, but I wasn't ready or they weren't ready or whatever. But they always, like everybody, the people that are meant for you, they always come back. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if they're not meant for you, they're not going to come back. Mm-hmm. But like if it's, I don't know, you'll end up running into them. You'll end up having a conversation that sparks and feels like no time has passed. Or like they'll support you in ways that a lot of people in your life won't support you. Mm-hmm. And like that's something that I've been learning, especially just being on my own, is like those connections that I had built in the past, whether that is 8 years ago, whether that is a year and a half ago, whatever, if they're meant to be in your life and they're meant to teach you something or they're meant to help keep moving you forward, they'll always come back.
And it just happens so many times. So at a point, it's just like, okay, this person's leaving.
And,
all right.
And then you just kind of surrender to time because you're like, if this person has come back every 2 years, but they've been supportive and they've been uplifting and they've helped me continue to just move forward, whether that's as a friend or whatever, whoever that is for you, there's a good chance that you'll probably lose connection again and they'll probably be back in another 2 years. Yeah. Right?
I think it's the hardest for only children like us.
Yeah.
Because it's I don't know about you.
Well, you don't grow up with the connection.
No. Like so my friends are my brothers.
Trust time.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it makes it hard to trust time. But I've learned specifically in the last month to kind of like take a step back and look at it and be like, okay, like I do trust time. Like, and I've got one friendship right now specifically where he came into my life like just under 2 years ago. And he was only in my life for probably a month, but he taught me so much and he was trying to push me forward as a woman in ways that would help me evolve and become who I am now. But at the time I wasn't ready, so I pushed it away. Mm-hmm. But as a friend, he's still there. He's still supporting. He's still uplifting. And now I am that person. And for me, that's kind of been like the biggest eye opener where I'm like, time really does. Now? Yeah, we're just friends. But like, time really does tell. Like, he's off traveling the world and it is what it is. But it's just like, it's been really eye opening to me to have those connections and have them always come back to always just keep you moving forward or like keep teaching you things. And so, yeah, I don't know. I've kind of just like learned to trust instead of like putting pressure on like, why isn't this working now? Or like, I'm obsessing over this person and I want this person and why don't they want me? Or why isn't this friendship working? Or
do you get fearful of losing them? Because it's, I don't know, for me, it's because I am an only child. I always think about it. And I grew up with a single mom too.
Yeah. So is that abandonment?
Abandonment and just like the fact that once all my, because I have an auntie, a couple of uncles, and a grandma. When they all die, who do I have? Like I see my friends that have siblings. It's like, okay, man, I'm like, you're so lucky, dude. Like your whole family dies. You got your 2 older brothers. Is that why you value your friendships way more than maybe someone else does? Because I do.
Well, because for me, like I lost my best friend when I was like summer of grade 12. And I lost my grandpa, who was my father figure at the time, when I was in grade 10. So those were 2 really hard years for me. And for me, I've learned that I've got certain outlets that I gravitate towards. So like people that mean a lot to me, I'm always taking videos of them. I'm always taking pictures of them. Like I'm always cherishing those moments so much more because you don't know. If I'm going on a road trip, like I'm 100% gonna like make sure I give the people I care about a hug first. Or I send out gratitude messages probably 3 to 4 times a day to like all the people that matter most to me because it's like,
really, that's
how I feel. Aww. Like, well, it's who I am.
I'm expecting one today, a DM on the phone.
Okay, I'll send you one. But like, yeah, like I don't know, like I know that also comes from like the meditation and the journaling and just being isolated, where then it actually gives me that time to reflect on like what matters most and like keeping that so close so that, I don't know, like my best friend passed away in a car accident, racing one of our other best friends. But like, you don't know that that's going to happen, right? And it happens so fast and people lose people so fast, like overnight or whatever. And like, you never know. So like, I have so much regret from not being in my best friend's life the couple months before or whatever. And like missing that or not having photos of them. They're little things that I've like kind of accumulated over the years in like now what I bring to my relationships and my connections because time's short and unpredictable.
I always say that, like I always take photos of my friends and videos and they're like, dude, what the fuck are you doing?
Everyone is so annoyed by it, but I'm like, yo, dude. Like I got like a whole fucking album of them to remember them by now, and what do you have?
I know.
You got nothing to remember them by.
It's like, dude,
and how's that gonna make you feel?
Yeah, like capture the moment, like for God's sakes. Like, isn't it like that feeling you get when you go through your phone and Snapchat gives you like a memory, like, holy shit, do you remember that? And
I will literally sit there and like go through like my memories.
Yeah,
just
same.
Like, and everyone's like, oh, like I remember I had one ex. And he'd literally just like sit there and just like watch them with me, and he was just like so positive about it because he knew how much it genuinely meant to me. But then there's other relationships where they're like, why do you always do that? Or like why, like, oh, here we go again, like you're gonna like watch your memories and like whatever.
Dude,
but it's
why
like
not? Yeah.
But it's like those are things that I thought were important at the time, and they're still important to me.
Yeah.
And like it brings a smile to my face to go back and look at that.
Yeah. Do you ever like look at it and you're like, wow, it's like so cool. Like that's like you remember who you were during that time and what you were feeling.
Yeah.
And you see your trajectory of yourself just like, whoa.
Well, that's
like,
why I journal now. And like and I started doing like in my Snapchat, I started doing like little vlogs. So like like even today, like I was driving here and I'm like, hey, like this is what I'm up to today. Like this is where my energy's at. Like this is like I did a microdose. I'm feeling good. Like whatever. Nice, and like
So like 2 years down the line, when
it's gonna pop up, and I'm gonna be like, "Yo, this is my day."
Yeah,
and like I was fucking happy.
Yeah, and you can like literally remember what you were feeling like in that.
Yeah,
place.
And like when I journal, like it started off, and this has been my biggest transformative outlet, I would say. I started journaling, and I didn't know what to write about. So I would just write like, okay, I have this appointment, hanging out with this, went and trained this, like point form, boring shit. And then I got to the point where then I started like listening to podcasts, and I was like taking notes on podcasts and then asking myself questions on it. And then it got to a point where then it kind of turned into like me counseling myself and like taking my learnings and like branching off into like, why did you feel this way? Like, what were your behaviors? Like, what were you feeling? And then it got into a point where then I just started writing a story to myself of what I'm going through now. So like if I always go back and I'll reread my journals, and like I know exactly what I was feeling, and I'll be like at the end of it, it's always like, remember who you are, or like smarten the fuck up, or like.
Do you ever read something that triggers you? And you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, because there's so much emotion in it.
Yeah.
And like I make a point to do that so that I can go back and feel it, so that I can
work on it. Yeah.
So I can still move forward with it.
Yeah.
And like, so when I'm writing, it's like, you went through this today, and then this triggered you, and this brought up these emotions and these behaviors, and you need to smarten the fuck up, and tomorrow's a new day, and we're going to progress, and we're going to move forward, and whatever.
You know, it's weird though. Like there's a like part in my camera roll, like the phase where I was not in a good place, and every time I go through that part, I like
brings you back.
I don't look at it. It's just I don't.
Oh, you skip it.
I skip it. I don't. I just
to go
like
back through.
You know, I go
because that's a part of you that's not healed.
Yeah, it's
that
I don't know
that you're avoiding.
Mm-hmm.
And I bet if you did go back through that, you'd probably release what you're holding on to, and you'd probably feel a lot better.
Oh yeah.
Like
I gotta work on this with my therapist. I gotta tell him.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Like, and that's the thing, and it sounds so stupid, and I don't know why girls do this now, but take a video of yourself crying. Like, I do it now as like a vlog, so that I can like move past it and like go back and be like, oh shit, like you were fucking feeling this and it hit you really hard, but now you're here. And I know guys are like, why do girls do this?
Yeah.
The guys think it's fucking
like if
stupid.
I was to see that, now that you've explained it to me, I know why you do it. But like if I was to see it like right off the bat, I'm like,
why? What's the point?
Do you want me to honestly tell you what I think?
I already know because my ex and I had the same conversation. He's like, this is stupid. Why do you do this?
It's not stupid. It's just like, why? Like, what are you trying to prove? It's just, what's the point of this? What's the purpose?
Yeah.
But now you just gave me the purpose, so I get it. So it's therapeutic for you, right? So now
for me, it's like, I'm taking like a vlog of like, this is why you were crying. And I will like explain, like, this is why you're crying. This is what just happened. This is what just surfaced. And like, fucking release it so that in the future, if you come back and you watch this, you don't have the same feelings. You know you've progressed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like if you can rewatch this video and not cry again, because I always cry, then I know that I've taken a step forward. And I know that I'm in a better place. And like I can see the low and I can see the high now. Like there's like a visual.
Fuck, I just remember something so
What did you just remember?
I remember in high school I used to like fuck, this is so weird. I remember a few times I cried for fun. And I told my friend, and he's like, okay, crying. So it's kind of cool.
I love it.
It's like very.
Like, I love like if I'm journaling, if I'm journaling, I'm gonna like, I don't know. Like there's just moments where I'm like, kind of want to cry right now. Like we're gonna dig out some like deep shit, and I'll just sit there and just, just let it out.
Can I tell you a quick little story?
Yeah,
it's so fucking cringe. I remember in the summer of grade 7 going to grade 8, I was with my 2 buddies, and it was the summer we all played like Halo and COD.
Yeah.
We were like at each other's house, like, dude, fuck yeah, like, And I remember Halo had this like really sad theme song, and I was like, boys, do you want to just like cry right now? Let's just cry to this fucking theme, because it was really sad. So we're like, okay. And then we're all in my buddy's room, and we turn off the lights, and the song comes on, and we're just like, and then we turn it on, we just have tears in our eyes. We're like, dude, look, I have a fucking tear. It was, oh man, fuck. Shit. To be 13.
There's always fucking stupid moments.
Yeah, I mean, boys
like,
are
why
boys.
did I do that?
Yeah.
Or like, what made me want to do that?
Yeah, like, we're simple creatures, but we're really not boys. Like, we're just fucked in the head. Like 13.
Everyone's fucked in the head. People are fucked.
Yeah.
People are fucking weird.
Dude, this was fun. I like it.
Cool.
Episode 69, Brittney Parker.
Oh, 69.
Yeah, I know. I read that. I was like, oh, right on.
Nice.
Cool number. Cool number. Is there anything you want to plug?
Yeah, it's just at Brittney Parker on pretty much everything, with 2 R's on the end of that Parker, you know?
And E in your first name.
Yeah, BRITTNEY.
That's not common for Brittney.
PARKER with 2 R's at the end. That is my social and my TikTok. Yeah.
Cool, man. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Like, subscribe, comment. Enjoy your 24. Peace. Cool.
That's a wrap.
That was good. I like that.
Cool.
Yeah, that was fun. Could have gone. I was